Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Watches TV, where I watch all the TV shows and then I come over here and I react to them. And I know you guys probably think that the only TV shows I watch are reality shows and true crime documentaries, but that is not the case. That is not the case at all. I watch a lot of shows. I think tonight I'm going to start the new season of Wednesday on Netflix. I was waiting until all 8 episodes were out. I was going to say all 8 seasons. All 8 episodes were out. All 8 episodes are out. Lady Gaga has been announced in it. So I'm very excited to watch season 2 of Wednesday. I think I'm going to start that tonight. But I watch a lot of shows. I watch a lot of the trending shows that come out on Netflix and Peacock and Apple TV. I love Apple TV shows. But I have to tell you, okay, that one of my favorite, well, now it's becoming one of my new favorite streaming apps, but also just production companies, is MGM Plus. I am a huge fan of the TV show From. The new season is coming out soon. I think it might be the final season of From, and I think maybe the final season, or there's 2 more seasons. I can't remember. But it is done by MGM Plus, and I love the show From. So I think it was a couple weeks ago, I was asking on my vlog channel. I vlog every day on a channel called Peter Vlogs. I just sit in a chair and talk about what TV shows I'm watching, what books I'm reading, stories from my life, things like that. Anyway, I was talking on there about wanting to read some Stephen King, because I haven't, and I love to read. And so I didn't know where to start and whatever. And a couple people were telling me, because they know that I like to watch, scripted TV shows, they said, you might start by watching, and I think I was on there talking also about the made-for-TV series of The Shining that came out, I think, like 20 years ago. Storm of the Century. I love Storm of the Century. And some other Stephen King made-for-TV, like, TV series. And so somebody recommended to me The Institute. Well, I had seen the posters come up about it. I had seen people talking about it, but I didn't really know anything about it. I'd actually seen the book come up on Goodreads and Audible quite a bit. And I was like, if I'm going to start with a Stephen King book, I'm not going to start with one of his newer books. So I was like, I think for October, I'm going to read The Stand. I think that's my goal for October. But anyway, and I've seen a lot of the old movies like Cujo and, Carrie and Pet Sematary and The Shining and stuff like that. So anyway, I was like, okay, well, I think I had started the show. I think it's called The Outsider. It was another Stephen King show, and I couldn't really get into it. Or maybe it was Mr. Mercedes or something like that. It was another Stephen King show that I kind of couldn't get into. And so I was apprehensive about starting The Institute. And I was like, I don't really know what I think about this. And so I looked it up. I looked up the synopsis. Let me read you the synopsis. A group of psychic children unites to take on the shadowy organization that has kidnapped them and claims to be using their power to save the world. Okay, now the show stars Mary Louise Parker, and she is in charge of this place called The Institute. When the show starts, there is this kid named Luke, and I think he's like 14 or 15. You don't really know his age. They kind of discuss it at the beginning of it because he goes in to take these testing and he finishes it real early. He's like on genius level. Well, then he gets abducted in the middle of the night and taken from his home, and he ends up in this what looks like an exact replica of his bedroom, but he realizes very quickly he's not in his bedroom. And so he walks out of his bedroom, he's in his hallway, meets this girl. She's another person that's been abducted and taken to this place called The Institute. The Institute is where they take kids who either have telepathy or telekinesis, and these kids that are psychic, and they put them through these rounds of horrific tests. I mean, it's like horrific testing. Cruel. It's unbelievable. And there's like the back front and the up front, and there's the different areas. So like when they first come in, they're doing these testing, which is pretty horrible. If they comply with the tests, then they get these things called tokens, which they can get candy out of the vending machines. They can smoke cigarettes. They can do anything that's like adult-like as teenagers back there, because they've been treated like kids their whole life, is the mentality of the Institute. But anyway, once they passed a certain point, then they take them to this other part of the Institute, and it's where they have them as like a group. You find out later in the show, they have them as like, I don't really know how much of the show I want to ruin, because I don't think a lot of people have seen it, and I don't really want to spoil it for people because it's so fantastic, okay? I mean, it's so fantastic. And so they take the other kids to like once you've passed a certain point, when you start the show, there's like 6 kids that are in the upfront part of it. And they have like, they go to sleep in their bedrooms, they eat junk food all day long, they do this testing. The testing is horrible testing, okay? And once they've passed this testing part and they've really tested their limits and they've seen how good they are and things like that at telekinesis or telepathy, they then move on to this other part. Well, they don't really know what that other part is about. You find out later in the show what they're doing. And it's really about like kind of like world domination, world saving, things like that. But you don't really know that at the time. So the kids know that they're in like horrific danger. So the whole show is about them trying to get out of the institute. Them trying to get out and get away from these people. They don't know what's happened to their parents. One of them finds out later what happens to their parents. They don't know what's happening to the other kids that are taken. They're told that once they go to the other part of, I always spoil shows, so I'm just going to have to. So if you don't want the show to be spoiled, I will tell you, if you love, before I even get into the spoiler part of the show, if you love School Spirits or The Midnight Club, you would love this show. I went into it thinking it was going to be very adult-like, but I think it's really, if you're going to watch it as a family, I would definitely sit down with your kids and watch it. It's very violent. The torture scenes with the testing are horrific. It's not made for kids at all, but it is about a group of kids in this institute that are being used they're doing testing, this horrific testing for their psychic abilities. So, okay, I'm going to spoil parts of it. So then what they find out is that they're moving these kids to the other part, and they're basically frying their brains, okay? And when they're done with them and they've used them up and spit them out, they burn them in this, like, crematorium, and then they just get rid of their bodies. That's what they do. And they figure that out, so they figure out that they have got to get out of this place. They have to escape. At the same time all this is going on, there's this guy in town, I can't remember what his name is, hold on a second. And he comes into town, his name is Tim, and he has been a police officer in Boston, and he's like a drifter into this small town in Maine. You know, all Stephen King's books and shows, and Stephen King is the executive producer on this show. He comes into town, and he wants to like he becomes what's called a night knocker, which I looked up and I didn't realize was like a made up term for the Stephen King book. And what a night knocker is basically like in between kind of like a security guard and a police officer. Like he doesn't carry a gun, but he goes around and checks the security of this small town in Maine, which is where all the Stephen King books take place, usually, in like Maine or the East Coast. So he goes around and he starts realizing that freaky stuff is going on in this town. He meets this homeless woman that she has a lot of like psychic abilities, and she says stuff's going to happen, like this plane crash and other stuff that ends up happening. He starts talking to this other police officer about some kids that went missing like 15, 20 years ago. He starts connecting it to the Institute, so he starts doing his own investigation. So while the kids are trying to get out of the Institute, he is at the same time trying to investigate the Institute. And the people that work at the Institute, they clue into him really quickly. They're like, is he disposable? Should we get rid of him? Why is he looking into us? And whatever. So it's the two stories that are going on together. This show, it's 8 episodes. It has just been renewed for season 2. I was blown away. I loved this show, okay? I was wanting some spooky shows to watch in September and October, getting ready for Halloween. This is definitely a spooky show. Watch it at night, break out your hot chocolate, break out your whatever you drink, your hot coffee, and watch this show. It is so good, you guys. Light your candles, get real spooky at night. It is so good. And at first I was kind of like, I felt like the one main character who plays Luke, I felt like he was kind of overacting a little bit. But as you watch this show, you realize that's just kind of his personality. He is so fantastic in the show. Now, I will tell you this I thought was interesting. And like I said, I haven't read the book. Readers of the book might know why this is. I don't know why. I was confused. But there's a lot of LGBTQI plus representation in this TV show. There's a lot of rainbow flags in this small Maine town. They talk a lot about gender identity, trans issues, sexuality. There's a lot of that discussion. It's really like in the first 2 to 3 episodes. And then they kind of don't discuss that again. But I thought it was interesting. I didn't really understand why it's kind of like in your face. I loved it. I thought it was great that they just kind of wove it. It's not like they had discussions about it. It's just kind of like woven in. Like you see like a trans flag in the background in this like coffee shop as the guy's walking down the street. I was like, that's interesting because like it's almost like it's purposeful. I didn't know what that was about. If somebody that's read the book, is that a part of the book? Because they don't really get into explaining it in the TV show. But I loved this TV show. I thought it was unbelievable. I have like this and The Unknown Number on Netflix are the two shows that I'm telling all my friends to watch right now. I was blown away. I binge watched the show in like 3 days. I couldn't get enough of it. I would finish an episode and I was like, oh my God, I need to go to bed. You know that deal. But I was like, no, I want to stay up. And it's such a great show. The dogs were sleeping next to me. I was like scared watching it. You always think they're going to get, caught at any moment. There's also some humor in this show. Mary Louise Parker, I love her anyway, and she was fantastic in this. And she runs this institute, but she is evil to the core. And evil to the core. And so at the end of it, like this is part of the spoilers, Luke, they all help Luke escape. And so Luke escapes because they have him on the track to being like the most, I can't remember what it's called, PC or something like precognitive. That not only do you have telepathy, and you also have telekinesis. So you can move things and you can read people's minds, but you can also foretell the future. So he is seen as, they're trying to like create this in him and like prep him to be that if he isn't already. And so they think he is already. And so he will be like the most powerful, like precognitive, TK, TP, they call him TK and TP on the show, in the world. And so he gets out and he runs into Tim, and Tim like saves him from this like this assassin person. And then they go to the police. I mean, it's like 3 episodes of them like running from the police, running from the people from the Institute. It is so well done, you guys. It is one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. And like, I'm going to try to start comparing shows over here to like Untamed is very similar to me to Dark Winds. Like if you loved Untamed, you would absolutely love Dark Winds. I think if you loved The Midnight Club and you loved School Spirits, the camaraderie between the students in those shows is very similar to the camaraderie in the Institute. And I just thought it was fantastic. I love this show and I would highly, highly recommend it. So anyway, let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. I love you guys and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.